Hello, I'm Pastor Don. Welcome to Outback Adventures. Today I have in the studio with me Colleen Roberts, and she comes from Maree in northern South Australia. Welcome, Colleen. Great to have you with us today here.
Thank you, Pastor Don, for inviting me to your program.
Oh, we're glad you can be here. Well, before we ask Colleen some questions about where she lives, I'm going to take you to a place further north than Maree, to Coobapedy, and we're going to have a little look around there. Coobapedy is a fascinating place. In fact, you've got family members living up there, haven't you, Colleen?
Yeah, I've got a lot of family live there.
And it's the world's #1 opal mining town. They're digging holes there, looking for these precious gems. Just out of Coobapedy, you have the breakaways, glorious scenery there, and the sunsets and the different colours in the hills. It's all fairly dry country, but it's tremendously picturesque. And there's, I think, an Aboriginal story about this one, the brown dog and the white dog, these two different coloured hills. And we have an Adventist pastor who lives there, Pastor Alan, and his wife Lani. You've actually met them, haven't you, Colleen?
Yeah, I've met them last year at the Port Augusta Regional.
And they're bubbly, happy people, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, and a real blessing to the people in Coobapedy. By the way, Pastor Alan, he lives in a hole in the ground. Did you know that?
Yeah, like rabbits.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, that's the veranda over the front of his house, and you go in there, and that's just the cliff wall, and you go in through his front door. It's like going into a tunnel, and that's his kitchen, and there's his study and his lounge room, and even his shower and his toilet is underneath the ground. It's an amazing place. Now, also there in Coobapedy, we have an Adventist church. And that's it, it's over there. Now, you go near that telegraph pole there, and you go down there, and there's a cliff there and a cliff there, and we're planning to build or cut a church in that cliff there. Many of the churches in Coobapedy are actually under the ground.
Yeah,
and in fact, I think you're going to visit there in Coobapedy.
Very soon.
Yes, oh, that'll be great. It'll be an interesting experience. I'll show you in a minute where you're going to worship.
Yeah.
On the other side of the cliff is a house, and it's in there that they have church. There's Pastor Alan sitting up in the church section. And some of the folk leading out with the singing there, and then they have another tunnel up another area, and that's where they have the children's division. So, Colleen, it's a fascinating place, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely.
Well, I want to just tell you a little about one of my old friends, Keith Minunga. And Keith was an old stockman. And Keith, back in the early days, he was a bit of a drinker. But he gave his heart to Jesus, and Jesus transformed his life completely. And everybody today knows Keith as a faithful Christian man. I first met him in Port Augusta. I was visiting with my friends Roger and Audrey, and Keith was there, and they introduced him to me as the preacher. And he certainly is the preacher. He's been to Bible college, the Adventist Church's Indigenous Bible College called Mama, and there he's proudly holding up his certificate. But Keith just loves to get around and to sing and to share Jesus and to encourage people to put their faith and trust in Jesus. This was one time up in the Fink, and the church was full. There was a big mob of people, and we'd had a good message, and at the end Keith was ready to lead out with the singing, and I'll never forget what he said. He was out the front with his guitar, and he said, "Now you mob out there," he said, "come on," he said, "if you really want to follow Jesus, stand up. Just don't sit there," he said, "stand up." And there the people stood up, and we had this song of commitment to Jesus. It was really quite wonderful. On another occasion, I just want to tell you a little story about Keith. We had a funeral to go to up at Oodnadatta. And I don't know whether you can see on there, but the sign says closed. The road was closed because of all the rain. But we needed to go through to the funeral, and the local folks said, you come, if you get bogged, let us know and we'll come and tow you through. And so with that, I just had a little car back in those days, and so I headed across the Moon Plain, and there the threatening rain was coming, and there we got a bit further along, Colleen, and it got boggy looking. And I thought, now should I go through there or not? We actually waited till a four-wheel drive came and they towed us through. Just, we didn't want to get stuck in the middle of it and block everybody else trying to get through, you know. And then we got to Hookie's River there, and they towed us through that one. And then we still had to get through to Oodnadatta. And when we got there, of course, folk were preparing for the funeral, and Keith was there saying, we have a meeting. And we thought, nobody's going to come to the meeting. They're all going to be tied up with funeral business, you know. Oh no, Keith said, I'll tell them we're going to have a service tonight. You know, Colleen, 9 o'clock at night, there Keith had an audience of people. They came, and look at them sitting up there, and there he led out with the singing, and there I preached to the people a message, and it was quite a wonderful thing. Well, then we had the funeral for our dear sister. She was a dear friend of mine, and then we headed back to Coopapedy. We had to get through all that water, and Pastor Nonu got his car bogged. The policeman tried to push him out, and the policeman just sunk down too. And so he had to get in front and try to tow him out. And there Pastor Nonu, he got bogged in another one, and so there he is trying to get the tow rope onto his car, so that I actually towed him out in my little car. And so talk about a funeral, Colleen, it was really quite something. But Keith Minunga has been baptised. He's made his commitment to the Lord Jesus, and he's become a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and his great desire is to just share with everybody the story of Jesus. And it is interesting that not long after his baptism, as the result of his witness, there were 6 others there in Coopapedy ready for baptism. And there's Pastor Eric Davey with Pastor Alan, and there they're baptising Jeannie. They baptised Keith's sister, Kay, and then her husband, Ross Finn, old stockman from up there at Oodnadatta. And then something special has happened to Keith too. He found a kunga, a woman, and a special one, Colleen, Jeannie. And so Pastor Davey there married them at Coopapedy. They had a special ceremony, and look how beautiful Keith and Jeannie look as they're cutting their wedding cake. Well, I met them on the road not too long ago, Keith and Jeannie, and they're their dogs, and they were heading off. He said, we're going to preach Jesus. That's where we're going. And you know, one of the wonderful things is that Keith's own daughter-in-law, Sylvana Marks, she also is preparing for baptism. And so God is using people out there in the desert to share his story. Keith battles with the literacy, but he doesn't let that hold him back from sharing Jesus. We're going to take a little break now, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you about a strange phone call that I received 2 years in a row. Welcome back. I'm here in the studio today with Colleen Roberts from Maree in northern South Australia. I was telling you that I was in Coober Pedy and I received two strange phone calls. The phone call was from Sunshine Tucker, and he's actually one of your relatives, isn't he, Colleen?
Yeah, that's me and my sister's son-in-law.
Right. And this man says, how can we get an Adventist church in Maree? Now, how many people would live in Maree about, do you think?
About 120.
So it's only a small place, isn't it?
Yeah, small.
And so here's Sunshine saying, how can we get an Adventist church there? Now, to give you a little background of Sunshine, he was baptised in Kalgoorlie a number of years ago. And then because he is with one of your relatives, he came across to South Australia and eventually came and lived up there in Maree, and we never heard of him for quite some time, and we're wondering, does he still love the Lord? Is he still following him? And then we get this phone call out of the blue where he's saying, how do we get an Adventist church there? So I thought, well, he must still be holding on, you know. Yeah. And I said to him, I said to Sunshine, I said, I think the best thing for you would be to gather a few folk together who are happy to worship with you, and that would be a good way to start, you know. And so he said, all right, that's fine. And you know, 12 months later, I was in Coober Pedy again, and Sunshine rings up once more and says, how do you get an Adventist church in Maree? And I said, well, Pastor Davey is going to be coming up soon, and maybe he could come and have a little talk with you. And so Pastor Eric Davey and his wife Maxine were heading up that way to Maree. Now, we ought to do the trip from Coober Pedy down to Maree. We better get to Maree. And this is down the backtrack, isn't it?
It's like a shortcut for us, about 4 hours drive.
4 hours drive. Yeah, and so there's the beautiful scenery. We did it after some good rain, and so the country was looking lovely. I think that's Anna Station, isn't it?
Anna Creek.
Anna Creek, yes, yeah. One of the big stations out that way. And there we're coming down through the hills, and finally we get there to Maree. And it has the old train standing there because the Ghan railway line used to run through here. I think it got there in about 1883. Yeah,
the Afghan used to go through then.
Yes.
They put the line through, yeah.
Yes.
Telegraphs. Yeah.
Yes. And the only camel I saw there now was this wooden one. But Maree boasts the first official mosque in Australia. Was made out of mud brick, and I guess that's because of these Afghans being Muslims, and so there they had a mosque to worship in. Yeah. So very humble little one, isn't it? Yeah. And there's old Tom Cruise's vehicle. Did you ever see him?
Yeah, when I was a little girl, I used to see him when I used to live at the reserve. We used to come in from bush, and all I seen was that old truck with all the mail, and next minute all the bull dust come with it. Yeah, he come down the road. Yeah,
because he would travel between Maree and Birdsville, about 700 kilometres, and deliver mail to the stations along the way.
Rough road.
Yeah, some of the
boggy road, big sandals to climb. Yeah.
Yeah, and this old man died just recently. I think about 96 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, quite wonderful. Anyway, there's a sign up about these mail contractors and people like Tom Cruise that were pioneers in this country. Well, anyway, we're up to Pastor Davey coming up there to see Sunshine. And Pastor Davey met with some of the folk there. Sunshine gathered some of the local people in, and I think the meeting was held in your house there. There's you sitting up there, and some of your families came along, and Pastor Davey shared. And one of the things he talked about was Bible college. But before I get to this, I should say he talked to Sunshine about it, and Sunshine, he said, you ought to go to Bible college if you want a church here, and then you could be the minister. Yeah, Sunshine said, yeah, I'll do that. But he never went. We're going to take a break now, and we're going to find out what happened there in Maree. Welcome back. I'm here in the studio with Colleen Roberts from Maree in northern South Australia. We've been talking about Sunshine Tucker and his desire for an Adventist church to be built in Maree. And Pastor Davey went up to visit with him about this and suggested he go to Bible college, but he didn't get there. But when Pastor Davey was talking about Mamaruffa, the Adventist Church's Indigenous Bible College, it touched somebody in the audience. And that somebody was you there, Colleen.
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard him say about Bible college?
Well, first I was looking for something like spiritual healing.
Yes.
Because I know our people need spiritual healing.
Yes.
And
you'd been through a particularly rough time,
yeah, I've had
hadn't
a
you?
tragic time in my life because at that time, Pastor came at the right time. I think God sent him there.
Yes.
Because I lost my sister, then I lost my granddaughter. And they were very close.
Yes.
But yeah, and at that time, God knew.
And you were about to the stage of thinking to end your life, weren't you?
Yeah, I was going to commit suicide at that time.
Yes.
And then
Bible college sounded like a ray of hope for you, eh?
oh, it made my heart sing when I heard Pastor Davey say to me about there's a Bible college and it's for Indigenous people like Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. And I said, yes, that's for me. Straight away I wanted to sign up.
Yes.
So he gave me the forms and I signed up, and last year I started.
Now you actually are doing the health course there at Mamaruffa.
Yeah, when he said it was a health course, and I said, well, I'm an old health worker. I've always worked as a health worker.
Yeah.
And I used to work just in the clinic and doing band-aids and
Yes.
giving tablets, and I was thinking, nah,
So
we need...
what's different about the health course at Mamaruffa from the health training that you've had in the past?
Spiritual. Our people need spiritual health.
And so that appealed to you, the spiritual side of the health training.
Yeah, and that's what Mamaruffa College gives me.
Yes.
It teaches us God, through God, there's no other way. We have to have spiritual health to
Yes.
fix and heal ourselves.
Yes.
You know, so that's why our people are too sick today.
Mm.
Yeah, and if...
And that's spiritual, that's really Jesus, that's what
That's
we're really
Jesus.
talking about, isn't it?
Jesus has spoken, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
he's...
it's about him dying on that cross for us with his love, you know.
Yes.
And that's what makes that love drives us to keep going, to learn more about the
Yes.
Bible.
So it's spiritual healing in the sense of knowing that Jesus has forgiven our sins, knowing that Jesus is coming again and there's a wonderful hope for us. And it's also spiritual in the fact that our body, the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we're to look after our body for God. And so even the health principles come from a spiritual angle, you'd say.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And just reading about going to the college and learning about what Ellen G. White said.
Yes.
She saw the vision God gave her. And it's make me think about my people, you know. That's what my people need, is God in their life.
Yes.
Give them peace.
That's so true.
Yeah.
We ought to show a few pictures of you here. You went, Sunshine didn't go, but you went.
Yeah, me and my sister.
And your sister here,
Yeah.
Raylene Warren, she went.
Yeah.
And so there you are at your first graduation there at Mamaruffa, and that was a proud day.
Yeah.
I felt so happy for you, and it's a real accomplishment. And I want to say to you today that Colleen never has missed a single block going to Bible college. She's been one of the most faithful and consistent students. And that's, I think, why you're getting so much out of it, Colleen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so, and then, Colleen, not only did you go and Raylene go, but this year...
My daughter.
Yes.
Every time I used to go to the block, I used to come back and tell them about the block, what I done, what I learnt about. And my daughter said, Mum, bring back forms so I can fill out and go too.
Yes.
So now she goes this year now, yeah.
And she's enjoying it too. And
Yes.
yes, and developing that relationship with Jesus.
Jesus, yeah, that's only the way.
Now, Colleen, you have some plans for your community there. What are they?
I see health and education go together hand in hand.
Yes.
And I like to teach more. I'm doing voluntary work in the community now, in the school with the kids in God's way, working in God's way.
Right.
So I think the spiritual health, yeah.
Yes.
Through spiritual health,
Oh,
God's way, yeah.
Yes. So you would like to see a Christian emphasis even in the school
In
there.
the school as
you
well,
feel that's important for the children.
Yes. And in the health field too as well.
Yeah, I've heard you talking about you'd like to share some of the things with the community that you've been learning, because that would help them in their day-to-day health.
Yeah.
Those principles.
Those principles, yeah.
That's
right.
good. Now, Colleen, you also have a little personal plan for later in the year, is that right?
Yeah.
Would you like to share what it is?
I'm getting baptised this year.
Isn't
very
that wonderful?
Yeah.
That's the best decision you could ever make.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen perhaps up at the regional at Cooper Pedy, eh?
At the regional at Cooper Pedy, yeah.
And then you got some more good news, haven't you?
And then I got a phone call last week before my daughter's block finished. She rang me and said that she's ready for baptism too. And she said she wants to be baptised with me.
Oh, that's really special. That's wonderful. We rejoice with you,
Praise the Lord.
Colleen, yes, and so happy for you and Josie. Well, we're going to conclude our program today with a beautiful song from Ken Mackenzie, The Christian Bushman. You'll enjoy this and it will encourage you in your walk with Jesus.
This is a story of my life, how I became a born-again Christian. I was a drover handling cattle and that, and then I gave my life to Christ, and this is a story, the song of my life. I'm a Christian bushman, and I really love the Lord. I used to be a drover a few years ago, but now I'm following Jesus, and I'll follow in His way. And one day we're going to be with Him and to live with Him forevermore. Come on, you bow-legged stockmen, so rounding up the mob. Turn around to Jesus before it is too late. 'Cause when the Saviour comes, and we'll go to be with Him, and one day we'll go to be with Him and to live with Him forevermore. I'm a Christian bushman and I really love the Lord. I used to be a drover a few years ago, but now I'm following Jesus and I'll follow in His way. And one day we'll go to be